Morning, you're listening to Insurance Matchmaking, your path to health, life, and Medicare coverage with Matt Libby Insurance. And now, sharing his knowledge, here's your host, Matt Libby.
All right, good morning. Welcome back to Insurance Matchmaking. As promised, there's a guest today, not just me. Ward Norris. I almost said Norton again. Ward and I are in the VFW here in Cookeville. He is our senior vice commander currently. But that's not the only reason I asked him to be on the show. He's also newly joined the county service officer office here for veterans, helping people with their VA claims and things like that. I don't know if I'm using your... So what is your official title there, Ward?
Hey, good morning, Matt. Thanks for having me on. I'm a county veterans benefit officer. It's like a veteran service officer, but it's just more technical.
So, and you work with Mark Green. Some of our listeners may...
Mark Harris.
Mark Harris. Why do I want to keep calling him Green? Mark Green's a congressman in the Clarksville area.
Definitely don't work with him.
He isn't a member. He is also a life member of VFW. 28 years. Tell us a little bit about your Army career. People love stories. We had our VFW Christmas party last night when we also give out the awards for our student programs. We have a essay contest. I think I might have mentioned this on the last show, but essay contest for middle schoolers, and then the high schoolers do a speech, and they actually have to record the speech. So it's a pretty stiff competition, but if they make it all the way to the national, it's a nice little scholarship. So we had that. Well, we had to do our introductions of ourselves last night. We had some that took quite a time sharing their story, and then some were very brief. So go ahead, Ward.
Well, I would say that last night there's the Voice of Democracy and Patriots Pen, and I was one of the judges this year for the Cookeville Post, and I will say that it's very encouraging.
Yeah.
The next generation, their way of seeing things and the way of seeing things correctly. And so it was an absolute honor to be part of one of those judges, and it was, like I said, very encouraging to see how young people are thinking. So 28 years. Which is really weird because I'm only 36.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That's the way I feel too.
So 10 years ago in the 90s, I enlisted. My first job was a Cav Scout, which I really enjoyed, but I just wanted to change it up, so I changed my MOS over to a forward observer, which is artillery. I later learned as a sergeant that I probably wasn't NCO material, and that I could get more done as an officer, and so I commissioned, I commissioned as an artillery officer.
Now, what route did you take there? OCS?
ROTC, yes. Reserve Officer Training Corps. I went through Tennessee Tech here.
Okay.
I'm from Cookeville. Graduated from Cookeville High School, went to Tech, and then got my commission. And then I commissioned as artillery. Did that for a couple years, and during that time I deployed twice to Iraq.
I forgot I was supposed to say, huh?
What? Right. Ironically, I have great hearing. If I could just get over the tinnitus, I think I'd be great.
Oh.
So my first deployment to Iraq, I was with the 10th Mountain Division. I deployed there right at the end of the Iraqi invasion, and I came in on the end of the invasion, and then I was part of the rebuild. And part of that mission was rebuilding a local government, which was challenging because when I was in high school and I had those government classes, I said to myself, why should I pay attention? I'll never need those. Ironically, 10 years after that, I was having to rebuild a government in a foreign country, and I didn't know anything about it. And so there wasn't a lot of Googling either. So there was a lot of reaching back to different communities to ask questions about just how local governments ran. Second deployment, I was still with 10th Mountain Division. That one was a little bit longer than the first one. And I trained the Iraqi Army. That was my mission, was training a local Iraqi Army. And it was interesting, and I enjoyed a lot of aspects about it. After that, I left 10th Mountain. I went to work at Boeing. I worked there for 3 years as part of Future Combat Systems. And it was very, very insightful to the way that the Army purchases and has equipment developed. You could see all sides, both good, bad, ugly, everything about it. And a lot of great things came out of that. From there, I was sent to Europe, and I was a trainer where I trained U.S. forces, and I also trained our partner forces. So countries would come to us, and we'd help train them on operations and tactics and things like that. And that was a very rewarding job. That was one of my favorite jobs I had in the military. After that, I came back to the U.S. I was in the 101st, where we deployed. Right, air assault. So we deployed to Africa in part in support of the World Health Organization as part of the Ebola outbreak, and we did some fantastic things. In fact, I think we did such a great job that the World Health Organization asked us to leave because we were getting all the attention that I think they wanted. I always ask you, why would you call the Army someplace to solve a problem if you didn't want the problem solved?
I was just thinking, you said you went, it was in support because of the Ebola outbreak, and so how many days was it before you could lift your arm after all the shots you had to get before you went?
Well, that's a great point. So when Ebola broke out, I was sent with a few other people way ahead of everybody else. Yes, I was sent to Italy to work with U.S. Army Africa, and from there I went down with them to we were in Liberia, and they didn't tell anybody. And so I was sitting down, and I remember sitting in a hotel, and I was watching a TV, and I was eating the local food, which I think were like fried potatoes and fried plantains, if I'm not mistaken, which was really good the first 3 or 4 times. But after that, I was like, I need something else, which I found a really good Chinese restaurant. But I was sitting in this hotel, and I was watching TV, and I was watching the guys at the 101st on the news wearing hazmat suits and doing all sorts of preparation for training in a hazardous environment. And I was looking around going,
I'm already here.
I didn't get any of that training. All I got was, a high five and a 6-pack of hand sanitizer and a good luck. So I will tell you, I loved Africa. They're just the people, the culture. It was neat. It was so neat to be there. And it was also hot. Really hot.
I bet hot, yeah.
And the humidity, oh my goodness. And here's what I've learned about Africa. There's 2 seasons. There's rainy season, and then there's really rainy season.
Yeah.
And I remember during the really rainy season, I woke up one night and the rain had stopped. And I looked around my room. It was dark, and I was panicking because it was so quiet. And I was like, what's happening? Something's wrong. And then the rain started. I was like, oh, that was it. Okay. So I went back to bed. So
it's kind of like that scene in Forrest Gump. It rained and it rained and rained, and then it stopped.
And then, right. But like I said, that was the really rainy season. Then it was just regular rain season, like everywhere else you go.
Yeah.
But the humidity was out of control too, because we were right on the beach.
Yeah.
Right on the beach. And then, so you had humidity coming off the ocean, but then if you went inland, you were in a jungle, which was also humid.
Right.
I don't think I was. Yeah, I think I was sweating for about 6 straight months. I think I had one of the best detoxes my body has ever had. Being there.
You mentioned, you said you like training up for or partial training or getting ready was Italy. Now, where were you at in Italy?
I was started at Vicenza, and then we went to Del Din, which is where the 173rd is. But also U.S. Army Africa was there.
Yeah.
And so it's about 20 miles from Vicenza.
Okay.
So which I think you said you've been to Vicenza.
Yeah, I was 82 to 85. My daughter was actually born there at the hospital in our flight detachment. That was a fun. It was crazy. I got there and we had civilian maintenance for our aircraft, and they're like, "Well, we don't have a job for you. I think we'll send you to Germany." And I said, "Well, my wife's really looking forward to moving to Italy, and I've been to Germany. I'd like to check out Italy." So they kept me around, but I didn't work my MOS the whole time I was there. The first year, I don't know if it was a whole year, but I was in worked POL. POL stands for Petroleum, Oil, and Lubricants. We have all the acronyms. Basically, what I was doing was refueling our aircraft. And one of the great things about refueling our aircraft, did you experience the Venice fog while you were there? Or you were there like summertime, so it was probably warm and dry?
Well, I've been there a few times. So when I was in Germany, I was a trainer. We would travel all over Europe. And one of the places we went to was Vicenza, Venice, Verona.
Yeah.
And so I did. It was at Christmas time, and I did experience the fog. And I remember, wow, that was a few years ago. It was an incredible place.
Yeah.
It was just magical almost, and that's kind of how I see fog anyway.
Yeah. Well, the fog, it could be very thick, and you barely get, you really had to be careful driving in the morning. But the thing was, our airfield, no lights. It was a dawn to dusk airstrip, and if it was foggy, airfield was closed. And so because I had to stay until the last aircraft came in to refuel, and sometimes had to come in on Saturday there because we had C-12s there, the beach Beech King Airs that flew the diplomats around, because we were also the headquarters for Southern European Task Force. So, the general and his staff would fly to Italy. We were in Italy, but to Turkey and Greece, and sometimes up to Germany, because that was the other thing because to get to Germany, you had to cross 2 neutral countries. So you had to have an aircraft that could fly above the Alps and be pressurized. Helicopters had to go around.
Yeah, the Alps.
And so sometimes I'd show up for work in the morning, and about 1 o'clock they go, fog's not going to lift, airfield's going to stay closed. I'd go home, because that was the only job I had to do was fuel the aircraft. And if they didn't make me just sit around, because the next day I might be there till 6 o'clock. And again, a lot of people don't realize, they think of Italy as being very south. And actually, if you look on the globe in the latitude, it is a higher latitude than we are here. Mm-hmm. So if it's summertime, it stays light pretty late.
Yes. I think like where we were in Germany, the sun would go down at 10:30 p.m.
Yeah.
You'd be like, all right, the sun's down. It's getting close to bedtime. 11? What? No.
Yeah.
Hey, you talked about fog, and there was I was in Germany, and my family and I said, hey, there's a ski trip in the Alps. Why don't we go? I said, I'm not really a great downhill skier, but I said, gravity has always worked well with me on skis. And so I said, yeah, let's try it. We went. We rode the ski lift up. We were in Austria at the time. Mm-hmm. And I got to the top of the mountain, and there was a fog around. I think it was a cloud, but it was on the ground. It was on the mountain, so I called it a fog.
Yeah.
So I said, well, how hard can this be? So I went skiing down the mountain, and I ended up at the bottom. And I was back in Germany at the wrong ski resort.
Oh, so yeah.
I said, how do I get back? And so luckily the whole mountain had one lift ticket pass. So you can ride any of the lift tickets in any of the ski resorts. I was very fortunate. I was like, well, that would have been an expensive experience had I had to pay for another lift ticket to get back up.
Yeah, we had they had ski weeks, where you could, and it was great, the ski week. You didn't take leave. They would put you on a permissive TDY, so you go and take a week-long trip to go skiing. And I went to go do that, and it was one of those years that we just didn't have snowfall. And so I'm in, not Garmisch, I was in Berchtesgaden.
Okay.
And there was, no snow there. Actually, what was funny was the lodge, the ski slope is also the golf course. Because the golf course is covered in snow in the winter, so I went out, put my skis on, and skied a little bit. There was a little bit of patches of snow there, and so I was able to say I skied in Germany because, and I don't know if I was on the Ski Austria pack, but there's a glacier, and I don't know if it's the name of the mountain or the name of the glacier, but it's called Kaprun, Kaprun is how it's spelled. Mm-hmm. So we took the bus. The bus ride was. That was like an hour and a half bus ride from where we were to get there, because that was the only place that had snow that you could ski on. All the lower resorts didn't have enough snow for skiing. So we go up on this glacier that was 3,000 meters, and you rode a cog train. So you had there, and then you had the ski lifts on the top of the mountain. You could ski, and actually you can't ski there year round because in the dead of winter it's too cold. But you could ski there in the summer because it's not, like I said, it's on a glacier. So we were able at least to ski there. But we're up on a break here, and we'll share a little more skiing stories after the break.
This holiday season, Habitat for Humanity's Restores are here to help you get your home ready for the festivities. Whether you're decking the halls or searching for the perfect gifts, our Restores have everything you need, from furniture and home decor to building materials, all at incredible prices. And don't miss our special event on December 21st. Bring the kids out to meet the Grinch himself from 10 a.m. to noon. It's the perfect way to make lasting memories and share a little holiday mischief. Habitat Restore off South Jefferson Avenue in Cookeville.
On the 12th day of Christmas, Twin Lakes gave to me. Twin Lakes is celebrating their customers this holiday season with the Twin Lakes 12 Days of Giving Christmas Giveaway. Now through December 18th, visit them online at twinlakes.net to get your name in the bag. There will be over 75 winners with names drawn every day. To increase your chances of winning, revisit and enter every day. Winners will be announced on the Twin Lakes Facebook page. Learn more at twinlakes.net.
And now, back to Insurance Matchmaking with Matt Libby Insurance.
All right, welcome back. And I was talking just before the break about some of my skiing exploits. I've mentioned on here before, I used to be in a group called B&I, and one of the things we would do when it was our turn to be the speaker was you shared something that nobody else here knows about you. And so one of mine was I've actually skied in four countries and 3 continents, because obviously I learned to ski in the U.S., and then I skied that little bit. I was in Germany. Actually, 5 countries. I was 5 countries. Because when I was stationed in Italy, I went into the Italian Alps and skied there. So I skied in Austria. So I had 3 countries in Europe, and then I was stationed in Korea, and I actually got to go skiing there also. I'm not sure, because who knows, what the name of the place was, but where I went skiing in Korea, I don't know if that's where they did the Olympics or not. The Olympics were much later. And you mentioned in the first segment, they're talking about how you're only 30. You served 28 years. I retired in '97 after my 20, and it's like I always say, I don't know how how could I have finished my Army career? I just got out of high school a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. Still kind of feel that way sometimes, other than, when I try to get up out of bed now, being 66, I can't move like I just got out of high school. But in my mind, it hasn't been that long, and I've actually been retired longer than I was in. That's several years ago now. In fact, my wife and we met after my career, and we'll have our 26th anniversary here in a month.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. Yeah.
So, like I said, I've been out of the Army over 25 years and was in for 20. So but it still seems like it was just yesterday. Ward, tell us some of what it's been like becoming a benefit service officer here in the county. That I know you've had some training. I don't know if you're still in the training. I heard somebody ask you the question last night. I didn't hear the answer of had you finished your training, which of course, as we know, we're always learning. But officially, have you completed your certification training or whatever that they call it?
So no, I've been in this job for about a month, and my actual training is the end of next month.
Okay.
And so that the accreditation part is, now that being said, for the last month I've been training. Basically, it's like drinking from the fire hose in terms of learning, I'll say, navigating the seas of the Veterans Affairs, because it is absolutely a huge
behemoth.
I don't know how to describe how big this thing is.
Yeah.
And what I've learned, and I'll tell you, I just retired. We moved back to Cookeville. And, one of the frustrations I had moving back was, how do I tie back into a community? And so being in the Army, we moved average every 2 years.
Yeah.
And so there's 2 things I've always been able to tie into anytime we move, and our family can tie into. One is church, the church community, which is pretty easy here. The other is the military community of where I'm going and who's there. Moving back here, it was challenging to find a military community where I can tie back into a community.
Yeah.
And so part of what I've been doing for the last month is creating essentially a veteran community webpage as part of the Putnam County website, which it does 2 things. And one is it helps because we're talking about how large this is. I've also been observing Mark Harris as he assists veterans getting benefits. And I'm starting to see a pattern of, one is people just don't know what they don't know.
Right.
And so that was one of my challenges. Like, how do we help people? How do we help the veteran community? And it's not just the veterans, but it's also the veterans' dependents. Because eventually veterans, they pass away, and then what do you do? And there's a lot of people who just say, I need help. So I said, how do we help veterans and help get them the education, the information, the point of contacts that they need? But the other question is if I'm a new veteran coming into a community, how do I tie into that community? How do I tie into Putnam County as a veteran? Because I can tie into something that I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
And so I created a webpage, and it kind of gets after both of these things. Now the challenge is, one is I'm discovering new veteran organizations almost daily, it seems like.
Yeah.
And so I'm adding those, and what I do is I add the website, the POC. How do you contact them if you were interested in doing that? The other thing is it's information. It's things like the resources, the POCs, education type stuff, and I've included that in the webpage as well. So So if you're a veteran or you're a veteran spouse or dependent and you have questions, it's a great place to start to kind of start getting answers, and it's consolidated onto one page. And so the more I see and the more I learn, I'm trying to say, how do I take what I'm learning and make something that is usable for everyone out here, for Putnam County veterans.
Yeah.
And that is one of the big, like I said, this VA system is so big. It is, and it's so much you just don't know. And I've had a lot of, especially like spouses and dependents, that come in and say, why didn't anybody tell us?
Yeah.
And then this is the question I have to ask myself, and the problem I'm currently working on. How do I reach a community? How do I reach veterans and families that don't realize they need to be reached?
Right.
And not just that, how do I reach the demographics of anything from World War II veterans to OIF, OEF veterans? Right. Because they're not the same. The generations are different, and it's a wicked problem, but it's a fantastic problem at the same time to have.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, and I'll tell you, one of the things I learned about being in the military is that we are problem solvers. Mm-hmm. And if you want a problem solved, we're an organization to do it. Now, if you don't want the problem solved, don't ask us to do it, because we're going to solve the problem.
Right.
So this.
Yeah, and I get in trouble with that at home, because it's what's the phrase, the mansplaining, or the wife, she doesn't want you to solve the problem, she just wants you to listen. So we get it doubly, because one, we're guys, so and the military, because that's what we were trained to do. Yeah, I always get a kick out of a lot of people think, oh, all you do is blindly follow orders, and it's like, no, I flirted with that. I got to really be careful how I say this so it doesn't get me in trouble situations. I maybe shared on here before, when I was in Korea, we had a captain who was prior enlisted, and basically finally got in his command time, needed to make major, or he was gonna be out. I had 18. I was on the downhill side of my career, so it's like, as long as I didn't do anything to get court-martialed, I knew I was okay. And I ended up being quite a buffer between him and my troops, because he was overzealous of just micromanaging things, and it's like, so didn't really enjoy that tour. But you mentioned also, you don't know what you don't know, or who to talk to. I talked to a gentleman this week, and fortunately, I think we've kind of got a plan going. But he's my age. He's 66. Went on his Medicare because he's already started drawing his Social Security, because that happens automatically. Mm-hmm. But he declined the Part B part of Medicare.
Sure.
Well, and I don't know if you even know this yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'll share something with you if you don't know it. VA is not creditable coverage for your Part B of Medicare. Mm-hmm. So he's going to be having a 10% penalty, because he missed a year when he should have had Part B, that will be added to his Part B premium. And that Part B premium next year is $185, so he's going to have $1,850 added to his premium to pay on that. And one of the things he was concerned about, because he wants dental coverage. Well, he's been using the VA for health care, doesn't really have a bunch of health care issues, but he's got some dental issues. And, of course, with the Medicare Advantage plan, you can get some dental coverage, but you have to have Part B to get that. And the other thing with Medicare Part B, if you don't enroll when you're first eligible, mm-hmm. you have to wait to the first quarter of the year, and you only have until the end of March to do it. So he's waiting. He can't get his Part B yet, because he's got to wait for January. And then, of course, it won't start until February, mm-hmm. which is better than it was a couple of years ago. And really, literally, in just like the last 2 years, it used to be you had to do it in the first 3 months of the year, and then it would start on July 1st. So that's something you might want to share with retirees, or not. I say retirees. I don't mean as in retirees like we did, where we did at least our 20, those that are hitting that retirement age of 65 and wondering about the Medicare. Not just because hopefully I can write a plan that will help you and get paid for it. I strongly encourage any veteran who's about to go on Social Security or about to turn 65, get the Part B. Even if you're 100%, Because the other thing is, when you're out of town and you get an emergency and you end up in a hospital that's not participating with the VA is not going to pay for it. You have to go to, so it's risky, but yeah, you can get all your health care at the VA, especially if you're 100% disabled, but it could come back to bite you if you don't get Part B.
Matt, you bring up a great point. I just talked to someone who was asking a very similar question about Medicaid. Was it Medicaid Part B?
Medicare.
Medicare Part B.
Medicaid's for the low income.
Where does TRICARE for Life jump in?
Okay, TRICARE for Life, you must, you do have to have Part B to continue your TRICARE for your TRICARE for Life. And you need to do that even if have a spouse or other family members are on TRICARE. You'll still be paying your TRICARE premium while you're paying a Part B premium. But TRICARE for Life works like what we call a Medicare supplement or a Medigap. Medicare becomes primary once you're 65 and on Medicare. TRICARE picks up the rest. So my listeners have probably heard me talk about Plan F and Plan G. Where Plan G, there's a small deductible, going to be $257 next year of Part B. The Plan G, you have to pay that deductible. Plan F was for people who were on Medicare prior to 2020. They don't pay that deductible, but they pay a much higher premium for that plan. So most of my clients have had Plan G anyway. But TRICARE, or TRICARE for Life, I should specify, works like that Plan F. It covers that deductible, and when we say it covers everything that Medicare doesn't cover, the same thing with a Medicare supplement. It covers the portion that Medicare doesn't cover, because Medicare's primary. Then you have to be approved by Medicare for a procedure, which usually is not an issue, but sometimes like with cancer and things like that, there's some experimental treatments. Medicare can say that's experimental and that's not covered by Medicare. One of the other horror stories, just heard I'm trying to think, somebody was talking about happened recently, was to go to a skilled nursing facility after a hospital stay. You have to have been admitted in the hospital for 3 days or Medicare won't pay for the skilled nursing. And again, if Medicare doesn't pay, your Medicare supplement doesn't pay either. Now, TRICARE for Life might pick that up. I'm not positive on that, but if working like a Medicare supplement, it doesn't. So, because what happened was, in the case somebody was talking about was, this 100-pound woman has a husband that's, over 6 foot and a couple 100 pounds. He couldn't come home. But the problem was, the couple of days he was in the hospital, he was only under observation. He was not inpatient. So that is one of those things that can come back to bite you. So believe it or not, we are running up against the end of this show, and I've asked Ward to go ahead and kind of hang out and let's do a second show, because I told him we'll run out of time before we run out of things to talk about. So we'll take a quick breather and then do the show that should be airing next week.
You've been listening to Insurance Matchmaking with Matt Libby, your path to health, life, and Medicare coverage with Matt Libby Insurance.